everybody. Welcome to my Flosstube video number 6. My name is Anne. Today is February the 2nd, 2017, so happy Groundhog Day. I'm not really sure that the groundhog needs to see his shadow or not here because it's incredibly warm for February. I don't know, we're having some crazy weather. We had a blast of cold and some snow in January, and it's in the 50s, mid 50s here, which is really warm for us this time of year. Excuse me, I'm a little bit croaky today. I'm fighting off a late season cold, I think. So lots of hot tea, and you'll excuse me if I'm a little hoarse sounding. Hope you guys have all been well. I can't believe that January is already gone. I have no idea where that month went. It was just like, didn't we just do Christmas? It was like a day or two ago. And now it's February 2nd. I have a couple crazy busy months coming up. And the rest of February is really busy, as is March. I have two big trade shows that I go to in February and March, and so basically all of my waking hours are doing prep, getting ready to go to those, getting organized, getting things together. So I'm not sure how much stitching time I will have over the next couple of months, but I have been trying to like sneak in a half hour here or there, and you know, even the little bits kind of add up. So I feel like January was a fairly progress forward month, but we'll see what the next 6 or 8 weeks brings. But anyway, let's just jump right on into it because we're here for the stitching, right? So these are in no particular order, but I did work on all of the rotation projects that I had outlined in my January video. So that was good, but I'm also kind of reassessing my rotation and thinking maybe I need to pull something out of the active rotation so I can focus on finishing up a project. I'll talk more about that as we go along. But anyway, let's see. Let's start with the Tempting Tangles Welcome Sal. So I have gotten this to the point that I am caught up minus 1 clue. So here's where that is. I really like the little thistle flowers that have been added. I think those are actually my favorite part of this so far. I started the clue that came out last Friday over here and was a stitch off and wound up having to rip everything out on that. I think I am back to the point that I can restart that. So I will probably try to bang that clue out and get that done. The stitch along is a clue every other week. So we had one, I believe it was last Friday. I think that's right. Last Friday, and so there'll be another week before the next one comes out. And we are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 4, 8. So we're just about at the 3/4 point of this piece. There'll be one more band down here, and then that will be complete. I believe it's slated to end around the 15th of April. It's mid-April. I can't remember the exact date. So some specifics on this. I am doing this on a 32 count linen from Picture This Plus. The colorway is Wren, one of my favorites. I'm doing 2/2. And the original pattern was charted in DMC, and I am using the Gentle Arts threads, so they're hand-dyed cotton floss. And I like the antique look that it's given to that. So that's been fun, and it's been fun to work with those hand-dyed threads. So that is where I am on that. So my goal for the upcoming month of February would be to finish the clue that I need to finish on here and then start the next clue. That should get me to the end of that row of flowers. So that's kind of in the works. Next up, I know you guys have seen this a million times, and I suspect anytime people are showing full coverage projects, it's like the broken record. Hi, you've seen this a million times. I still haven't finished it. But I am working on it. This is the Decorating the Wreath ornament with artwork by Scott Gustafson, and it's a Heaven and Earth Designs chart. And I have been working on this nominally for the Stitchmania Christmas, what is it, Christmas all year long, Christmas throughout the year, whatever the year-long Christmas stitch-along is. I'm working on that here. This has been, I have been focusing on this piece. So when you guys last saw this, I had just finished the page down to, I think it was about here. So I'm starting work on this section here. You can see the chipmunk is gradually taking shape. And when I first started this, this was my first Heaven and Earth Design full coverage piece. So I was trying a couple of different methods, and the OCD part of me really likes filling in 100 squares to do your block, and then you can kind of check it off on the chart. And it's complete, but it's really fiddly. It's really fiddly working that way, or at least I was finding it that way. And I was a little bit frustrated. You know, when you're working on one block, you fill in that block and then you would move your thread over to park it wherever you are going to work next. And I was getting to the point that there was so much confetti in various and sundry portions of this section right here that I was working on, that I had so many parked threads I couldn't even tell what hole they were in. I should mention this is a 28 count linen, undyed linen, and I'm doing it 1/1, so the holes are small and there's not a lot of room in between stitches. The stitches are very small. So I was really struggling with that, because what I was finding is as I would put a batch of parked threads, let's say like right here where these guys are living, I would be off. If I tried to put a parked thread in the next row down, they're squished in so tightly that I was miscounting, and then even though I was dutifully, you know, marking my chart and saying, oh, here's where a parked thread was, that wasn't actually the correct place. So I had some stitches that I put in that I had to rip out because I was using the wrong color, or I had some stitches that I couldn't, you know, I would think I was in a place that I was supposed to be, and I couldn't even differentiate out where I was supposed to go with that thread. So I watched, it was a fairly long 2-part video that Pam Reed over at Pam's Crafty Corner did about how she organizes and works on her full coverage projects, of which she has several. And I really appreciated her very common sense approach to tackling these pieces. And one of the things that she has kind of come to decide on her pieces is that she is more efficient about working through a given page if she takes one color and does that color for the entire page, and then goes to the next color and does that. And so what she does is she starts with kind of a middle range amount of stitches. So let's say over the course of an entire page, there's one color that appears a fair amount, but not excessive and not in a confetti sort of way. So she'll stitch that color in, and then that kind of gives her a framework to work the other colors off of. So then she'll go back and she'll work the color that has the least number of blocks to be stitched up to the most. And that way, if she has to carry a thread across the back because it's a confetti type stitch, you know, where there's one stitch up here and one stitch over here and one stitch over here, that carried thread gets covered over by the stitches that are of the same color that are in a little block of color. So I decided I was going to try that approach and see how it worked. And I have to say that I really, really appreciate how much easier this is for me. So what I've done for this section with the chipmunk is I had a whole series, let's find where I am, whole series of parked threads through here. So I decided to work those first and just get them out of my way. I still have a couple that belong in this block. It's these last these last three. So I'll figure out where those need to go and I'll finish those. But otherwise, I've just been working color by color. And I really, really like this approach. It takes forever to, you're not filling out one block at a time. So, to do this entire page, which comes down to about there, is going to take me a while to finish it up. But I'm also not starting and stopping quite as much, right? Because I thread my needle, I work until I run out or that color is completely filled in on the chart. The other thing I have to say is I thought I was going to be a paper pattern person for these, but no. PDF on my reader, 100 times easier. I have a little stylus pen. I just, go through and I tap the squares on the grid as I finish them. If I screw up and I have to pull something out, I just can, delete that annotation as opposed to having to reprint the entire paper copy or change it to a different highlight color, marker. Yeah, PDF reader, totally the way to go as far as I'm concerned. So that has become kind of a no-brainer. So with this project, I've been trying to participate in Terry Stitching Petunias weekly challenge where you do a certain number of stitches. And now that I'm not doing this block by block, it's much harder to figure out how many stitches I'm doing at any given time. And so what I'm trying to do with this is just work on it for half an hour a day minimum, no matter what, just half an hour a day. And that gets me a thread or two put in, so I'm making progress on it. And then I'm going to try, we'll talk about this in my plans for February. I'm going to try to have this be rotated in more for larger chunks of time, because I really, really, really want to get this finished up. And I'm feeling like if I can stay, kind of focused on just everyday chipping away at it, I have a chance. If you follow me on Instagram, where I am Little Bird Stitcher, you'll know that I got the final thing to kit up my Desert Mandala chatelaine, and I really want to start that. I'm thinking I want to try to start that as a birthday gift to myself in July, but I feel like I need to get this finished first because this is such a time-consumptive piece. So that's kind of my plan with that. Okay, decorating the wreath, done. Next up, I have been working on The Village of Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. You guys are probably familiar with this piece. And my goal was to try to do a block a month. We'll see how that goes. So here is where I am. I finished block 1 last month. That's the first block. And I've started on block 2. Don't have obviously very much done, but I've at least gotten it started, and that's sometimes half the battle. So you guys may notice that I have made a change. Let me back up and say 22 count Hardanger from Picture This Plus, and I believe the colorway is Legacy. And I'm stitching this using the DMC, the called for DMC threads. I did make one change in this block. I didn't think that the blue was showing up, the blue of the stream was showing up quite as well as it might, so I changed the color to, I think it's called light Williamsburg blue. It's a color used in the DMC conversion palette, so it was already on the list for the piece as a whole. So I just changed out the paler green for the blue, which I like a lot better. So you guys might notice that there is a change here in block 2. What I decided to do with this piece is convert several of the blocks to be personalized to my grandmother's family. So my grandmother grew up in a very rural area of central Pennsylvania. She was the eldest of 8 kids who survived, and she was born in 1913. Her dad ran a dairy farm, and she's the eldest. Her brothers didn't show up until they had a couple more girls. So my grandma helped her dad on the farm. She was his go-to gal for many things, and she raised chickens and sold the eggs in town. And he let her keep part of the money, and when she graduated from high school, she bought a one-way train ticket to New York City, where she put herself through nursing school, and very self-sufficient. My gram is like the little red hen. She's the can-do kind of gal. So she met my grandfather in New York City, and they got married. When they retired in 1968, they bought an old farmhouse near where her family was, and so they wound up moving back there to a much more rural atmosphere, and that was where I spent most of my childhood in the summers. Very, very formative influence on my life. My grandparents were 2 people who I respected greatly, loved deeply. I think a lot of the things that I do in my life are colored by their influence on me in a good way. So anyway, this is just the kind of thing that my grandma loved. She loved anything historical, anything sort of history based. So what I'm planning on doing for the personalizations, the creek that ran through as you went up this windy road up the hill to her house and where her family lived was called Moose Run. So every place that's a Hawk Run Hollow, I plan to change to Moose Run Hollow. So for instance, the Hawk Run Hollow City Hall will change to Moose Run Hollow City Hall. And the same down here for the schoolhouse. I'll personalize it that way. And then the other things that I'm doing are to change specific names. So for instance, right here in the center, the St. Peter's Church, I've converted to the Advent Church. There's this little historic church right up the hill from her family's house where her mom went to church when they were growing up. It was the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that's the cemetery she and my gramps are buried in, as well as oodles of other family members. The other personalizations I plan to make are, so here for Nathan Huffer, the blacksmith, this one right here, I'm going to change that to my great-grandfather's name. He was very good with horses. He loved horses. Even after he got a tractor, because they had enough land that it really was not, if you wanted to put corn in, a tractor was a whole lot easier to use than a team of horses. He still kept his team, and he used that to plow the small garden plot near the house that he and my great-grandmother had built and lived in. And my great-grandfather was actually still alive when I was born. I knew him. He died when I was 6, but I remember enough about him that he's a strong memory. Just a really wonderful, quiet, gentle man. So I'm going to change that block right there to reflect that. I'm going to change the Opal boarding house to Jane's boarding house, which was my Gram's nickname. And then here for the grist mill, I'm going to change that from Jacob's gristmill to Claire. That was my Uncle Claire, who he worked with his dad. He's the only one of the sons who didn't marry, and he stayed at home and helped his dad run the dairy farm. He also was alive when I was born, and he and his dad used to come up to my grandma's house in the evenings for dinner. She would cook for them, and he had a very dry sense of humor. I do remember that about him. Really quiet, kind of taciturn guy, but he loved a good joke, and he had a really infectious laugh. He loved the farm. He loved everything about working with his dad. Just like farmer born and bred. You know, I think no matter what family he was born into, my Uncle Claire probably would have wound up being a farmer because that's just what he loved. And then the last change I'm planning on making is down here for the orchard, which is Apple Orchard Farm, and I want to change that to Johnson Orchard Farm, which is my grandma's family name. So what I've been doing, I haven't charted out the other blocks, but I have charted out the church since that's what I'm working on now. So I've made those changes, and I'm also going to take out the Reverend Isaiah Cook information up here and add 2 little flying birds. I did some online research and I couldn't find a specific minister's name that fit the time period correctly. The church does not have an active parish anymore. It's a historical building. My grandma, the last 10 years or so of her life, worked on restoring the church. And they put a new roof on, and they replaced beat up siding, and repainted everything, and had the windows redone. So the other change that I'm going to make to the church is the stained glass windows. I'm going to convert them to just simple plain glass windows with a kind of Tiffany blue frame, because that's what the church, the Advent Church on Moose Run Road, has. So I think that'll be kind of a fun family memory. It's just, you know, little tweaks here and there. Obviously going to keep the houses and the little farm animals and things like that the same, but just personalize it a little bit. And so I think that will be a kind of fun family memoir to work on over the course of the year and to hang on the wall at some point. So that's where I am on that. So my goal is to try to finish block number 2 in February. Then I started the Under the Sea Sal from Lakeside. Is it Lakeside Needlecraft? I always want to say Needlework, and I don't think that's right. I think it's Needlecraft. I'm sure you guys have seen this one on the internet at some point. It is block number 1 from January. Now block number 2 just came out last night, so I haven't started that, but that is on the to-do list for this month. So this is being done on the 25 count even weave that was in the custom colorway from Lakeside Needlecrafts. Sorry, I've got little snurdlets of thread. Now I decided that I have a place that I want to hang this when it's finished, and I even have a frame, I think, already for it that my husband made. And so I wanted it slightly smaller than the original called for. So instead of doing this over 2, I'm actually doing this 1 over 1. And I'm using some of the called for DMC threads, but then I'm also substituting out some hand-dyed threads for from Color and Cotton. That's part of Angela's monthly yarn or thread pack that she sends out. And I didn't like the really large and then a smaller eye on the octopus. It seemed a little off to me. So I did a little change, and I made the eyes just about the same size, which then necessitated changing a little bit of the tentacles in that area, but that worked out okay. I'm also doing the seaweed with 1 strand of cotton floss and then 1 strand of a kind of blue-green blending filament. So you can see maybe there's a little bit of sparkle to it. Does not want to focus, does it? Let's try that. A little bit of sparkle to it. Now the one thing that I have not finished on this block, there are some little tiny water bubbles. And I decided I didn't want to stitch those in DMC, that I actually wanted to do them with beads. So I had to order some size 11 pearl Delica beads. So I ordered those. They came last week. So when I'm ready to get going on block 2, I'll also add in the beads for block 1, and then block 2, which will live here basically, we'll have those added in as well. Block 2 is a shark. We've gotten that far that I know that's what it is. So this is a fun stitch. Not as quick as you might think to stitch it, but I think definitely doable to, I think it took me like 4 stitching sessions, none of which were very long, to work on this little guy. So I think it's going to be a super cute piece, and I'm really looking forward to working on this one as we go. So goal for February on this is to stitch block 2, because I want to try to keep up with this. So shark is next, and I probably will start that this afternoon if I can carve out a little bit of stitchy time. Anything else I need to tell you guys on this? Enjoying it. Super cute. Like the colors. I will probably place out some of the other motifs with the color and cotton hand-dyed threads as well. I just like the kind of mottled look that they give some of the larger runs of color. It's that kind of not the lightest green, but the mid-range green on that. So kind of fun. So that is my Under the Sea Sal project. And then last, I wanted to show you, well, let me show you the picture first, you know what I'm talking about. The Winter Garden from the Drawn Thread. I started this back in December, and I have been using this for the whimsical winter stitch along that's in Stitch Mania up to this point. So right now I am just about at the halfway point. I have finished everything up to the house, so everything up to where it says conifer. I finished that tree, which wound up being, I think, one of my favorite parts of this, with the hand-dyed Gentle Arts threads, because there's all those pretty variegations in there. So I am now working on the house. The N in winter is the midpoint of this piece. So not quite there, but have done a fair amount of the white on the house. This is on 32 count Witchelt linen in smoky pearl, and I'm doing it 1/1 with my own conversion of Gentle Arts threads, as opposed to NPI silks and I think Dinky dyes. It's a combination of those 2 threads. Excuse me. So this is my conundrum piece. I really wanted to finish this in the season, you know, between now and the end of winter in mid-March. And this is, you know, it's not a huge piece. There's another basically 2 pages worth of stitching left to do on it. But I think, considering how little I really got on it when I rotated it in, that I may need to put that one on hold. I've been struggling with figuring out how to actually complete things and not being so target locked on them that I get burned out, which I don't want to do. I want to actually, you know, enjoy these things and have this be a fun hobby, as opposed to a deadline crazy pants hobby where I'm feeling pressured to finish things as if I'm on some kind of crazy deadline, which, you know, I'm not really. Everything is a self-imposed deadline. It's all things that I want to finish, but I've got the stitch marker or my needle minder magnet sticking to everything. it is not anything that like I'm trying to do for somebody's anniversary or a birthday or a new baby or anything like that. So, you know, I'm kind of torn between figuring out whether I should just work on maybe 2 projects and alternate between those, or if I should keep everything in the rotation. I don't know. If you guys have an opinion, I would love to hear it and kind of tell me what works best for you. I want to be able to continue to see progress on my Heaven and Earth design piece, and I think the only way to do that is to work on it a fair amount. I mean, it's full coverage takes longer. You have to put more time into, every single block is filled in. So, yeah, I'm kind of back and forth with that. I think what I have been leaning towards doing is if I can get the 2 clues done for the 2 clues that are coming out, the one that came out last week and the next one coming out for the welcome sal, maybe finish that up and then put that away until the remaining 4 clues have come out, which will get me through until April for all intents and purposes, and just kind of put that one on hold and put Winter Garden on hold, and then keep out the Under the Sea Sal so I get that finished, because that one, for me, I know that the Welcome Sal clues are small enough that I can catch up with that fairly quickly. So even if I had the last 4 to do, at the most, that would take me a week to finish up. So if I go that route, put that to the side, keep up with the Under the Sea Sal, because I'm worried that if I drop off of that, I will not get it caught up, because there's 12 more in the future and they are more intensive to stitch than the Welcome Sal. That then I could alternate between Village of Hawk Run Hollow and Decorating the Wreath and have those kind of be my back and forth projects for the next couple of months. I don't know. What do you guys think? It's hard, right? I mean, it's hard to figure out how to get everything done that you want to do. I just feel like with all of these bigger projects that I have, I don't have anything that I'm really, while I'm finishing up individual clues on the stitch-alongs, I'm not really finishing anything, and that weighs on me to have all this stuff I'm working on. So I don't know. Any feedback, thoughts, whatever that you might want to share, greatly appreciated. I will endeavor to link to everything in the show notes below, so you guys can take a look at these patterns online if you're so inclined. And I think that's probably it for me this month. Just going to see what I can get accomplished over the course of February, and hopefully come back and have an update with at least a few more stitches put in on all of these projects. And hopefully by then the cold will be gone and we'll be into juniper allergy season here in New Mexico. We'll see. Maybe we'll have it early this year because it's been so warm. I'm trying to take advantage of the good weather and get outside for a little bit too. I know we'll probably have a few more cold days before the end of the season, and so it's good to have the balance. So I hope you guys have had a great start to your 2017. I will plan to talk to you sometime that first week in March. And until then, happy stitching. Take care, guys.